Good evening. This is CJ Miller. I'm in my apartment in Shreveport, Louisiana, downtown, and across the Red River is beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana, in northwest Louisiana. I always want to remember to invite people to come check us out. So I'm here with my canvas now. I have treated the surface of this canvas with titanium white blended with water, and I've got this tray here that I'm using. It's basically the top of a cookie tin, and in it I have a smudge of uh, umber, like a natural umber, or some people call it an oak umber or a burnt umber, depending upon the brands. May have different names also, and some Thalio blue. And these are acrylic paints that I'm working with. Now I have a manufactured wood table that came in, and there was a nick when we were putting it together. There was a nick on the table, and I actually used some of the umber, some of the natural umber to fill in the chip, and it worked wonderfully. And it's indistinguishable because of the natural tones in that tabletop. So anyway, I'm going to set this over. The lip of this catches a little bit of water, and that's great if I need to thin out the paints. But what I'm going to start with this is blending various amounts of this uh, just to start creating the area down here on the canvas on the bottom part of the canvas that's going to represent the waterway. I don't know if it's going to end up being a lake, river, whatever. I think it's just going to be, maybe we're not going to see too much from the close shoreline. It's going to be water, and I basically just kind of want to play around with those with the movement in the water. That's going to kind of be the subject of this foreground. And I don't know if I want to, like in the video that I took, and that it's posted. It's me checking out the Red River. I don't know if I'm going to go as high up, you know, as that river crawls in the video that I took, because I want to leave some room to play with the sky also. And so maybe I'm going to do, you know, uh, a third water, a third landscape, and a third sky, give or take, with each area kind of playing with each other. So there will be, some three fields. There will be like a foreground, a midground, which will be the shoreline, and then the whatever protrudes from that, and then the far ground, which also will lead itself into the foreground a little bit as we play around, um, will be the skyline. And so the vortex or the far center, when you're doing a painting, you want a vortex or a point of focus. Sometimes you want to have a multitude of points of focus, lots of interesting things, but a major subject. And mine will be that if you're looking dead on, maybe it'll be center or just slightly off center. you know uh, Sometimes I think when you do a painting and it's like uh, the lines kind of start and then they narrow in and it's like dead center, I think it's almost too much like an actor looking directly at the camera, when it's and it lets the audience know at that point this actor is playing to the camera, and it kind of breaks the realism. And unless that's a stylistic choice, the actor doesn't want to do that, or a stage actor does not want to look somebody dead in the eye in the audience, because even if you're trying to make that connection, because that audience member that you look dead in the eye, and you give that, you're playing off of that audience member for the sake of your performance, you're robbing that audience member, because that audience member is being taken away from the story by this connection that he's having with the actor playing the part. So, yeah. So that's why sometimes I do things with multiple focal points. And even if there's a major focal point where you're looking and there's going to be a major center of whatever is going on, uh, a subject there. And see, then it's like I want that to be just slightly off center. I don't want it to be dead in focus, because I don't know. Then, even though it's not a painting of realism, it takes away from the realism, and uh, that's not the way nature looks anyway. I mean, how many times are you out in the world and you're walking and you see a beautiful tree that captures your imagination? Well, that's wonderful. And even looking dead on, that tree is rarely dead center your field of vision. It's yeah. So that's just, that's not the way that we notice things. We notice things in the peripheral, and then we'll turn and we'll regard them. But even then, it's like it's not just that one thing that we're focused on. It's the whole picture of what's happening around it and everything. So that those are kind of things to consider when painting, when writing, when acting, when doing anything creative. You know, you can do the ultimate and minimum would be if you take this canvas and draw like one line, one straight perfect line, or even better yet, just a dot somewhere. And that is your point of focus. And that is, if that's the point of the work, then you can achieve that by just putting one thing. But that's not what the eye sees. The eye does not look into the world and see one thing, you know. Um, you don't look up at the night sky and see just the moon, even if the stars seem to be clouded out or whatever. You're seeing a whole field of vision. It's not just the moon. The moon would be unimportant if it weren't for the rest of the night sky that is around it, be it a cloudy sky or be it a sky where the stars are out and bright and lit. Um, so that's a good example. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and take a little bit of the blue, a little bit of the umber, a little bit of this watered down white, and we'll start putting it on here. And I would just play around until I get a tone that I like, as far as being the tone of the river, the murkiness of it. It doesn't have to be that teal blue like the ocean. Uh, we'll see. We'll see. And one of the reasons why I chose the umber instead of a black or something is that I'm working in a brighter, it's not going to be at night. It's going to be at least just before twilight. There's still going to be some lighter blue in the sky, but you may be able to focus. And it's not just the the tin shining through, but there is in an umber, it's a natural color, a brown really. And what happens is a brown is made up of equal parts of your primaries, your blues, your reds, and your yellows. And that umber kind of leans itself just slightly onto the yellow side. As we can focus in a little bit, you might be able to detect that, but just slightly. But it's mixing in with some blues and pulling in some of that darkness and just a little bit of the watered down titanium. I'm getting what I want in a murky uh, lake or river type water versus a bright teal or oceanic blue. So now to put it onto the canvas. And as I'm working here, I am not afraid to let the lines get a little swervy, bring it back up into the distance a little bit, maybe in case I want to work with an embankment back there. Rivers and lakes are like that, and then I'm not afraid of having some negative space in between the color that I'm putting on this canvas, because all this negative space, there's really the titanium white underneath it that's going to capture some light also. And so I can let that work in helping me create. And you'll see as I'm as I get more into this painting and a little bit more smudgy up close, I break from the solid and I get a little more broken and a little more smudgy. Uh, and what that's going to do in the long run is help me create the illusion of a reflective surface upon the water. And if I feel it's a little too solid back here, I can just dip into my titanium with the same brush that has a little color on it and just bring in some of that. You know what I mean? And kind of, yeah, kind of work with it. And that'll help and that'll help me when I get into the landscape. If I want to create a little bit of a fog or a mist, I've done that before where I take a watered down titanium, maybe with a couple of uh, tones added in and break it, make it kind of a smoky fog or whatever. It's a little bit too blue, so I want to come back over. It's okay with the painting. I've learned this the very first time I was painting. I threw a canvas out because I couldn't figure out what to do with it, and then I realized, you know what? Just like every other artist before me, that supplies are expensive, and I should have just let it dry and just painted over it. You know. And this blue here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the phone down in a second and put my hand on this canvas and hold it so I can work and really get this brush here into this and break up that little bit of a blue that's just a touch too blue for the rest of this. I don't mind it. It won't really read through that much, but yeah, I want to get some of that off of there. And then if I get too much paint onto the canvas in one area, I can just, you know, I can come over it with a damp cloth or something and pat it off. Okay, hang on. Let me get back to this. I'll be back in just right after the click. So I realized, as of right after the click, I came over here and I realized here that I can take, I don't know if you picked that flash red or not, but I can take a picture and video at the same time. How interesting. A little something I like to call learning through mistakes, I guess. Make a mistake and learn something from it. Okay, so the form really quite hasn't taken shape yet. I haven't gotten to that level of detail, but I'm hoping you can see where I'm going to do some playing around on the surface of this water with light playing along the different movements. And my task is to decide how choppy this river is going to be. What I'm doing, you remember I talked about in the tin that I'm using how water ran off from the titanium white and made sort of a watery white. Makes that really easy to work with and just kind of put on and thin out wherever I feel like the color is a little bit too dense and not blending quite well enough, you know. And I can use it and rub where I had the umber to pull up a little bit of umber and maybe even work on thinning out some of this Thalio blue. And this is at a point where I need to let this, and I know I work slow and when I paint, and also something else I do is I make a ridiculous amount of videos about each individual painting. And the reason why is because I am not someone who works fast. I work slow when I paint. I work slow in just about everything that I do when it comes to something of a creative nature. I don't know. I'm just I'm slow that way. What I'm doing is I'm just dipping into that white, that nearly uh, watered down, where it's basically just water with just a thin amount. So basically almost a watercolor here. And I'm just kind of glazing over this whole thing just to make it to where I think it's going to get a little smoother for me uh, visually. And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to set this over to dry because it's going to be very wet and it's going to need to dry before I move on. Now see, this part of the technique is called wet on wet, but I want to let it dry so I can come back and do some wet on dry technique. Probably, in a few hours if I get back to it, but certainly in a day or so. Well, you know what? A lot of what I do is based on inspiration. When inspiration comes, I grab it and I act with it. And the creative process, I think it's kind of cool. I think it's kind of slow. If we are God's art, and all powerful as God is, God took 7 days. He didn't bang something out in like 20 minutes. He took 7 days in the creation story that's biblical. So uh, if that's not a lesson in taking patience in whatever we are creating, I don't know what is. Uh, I oh um I may have already talked about this point too. I think of I think of art like I think there's art everywhere you look. Like when uh, we go out and see like a rusted fence pole that was got a topping on it, an ornate topping on it, and it's all rusted and it's out in front of this old uh, house that nobody lives in anymore, and uh, it's so commonplace that you can go to Lowe's and you can get that same fence pole topper everywhere. It doesn't matter. That's a piece of somebody's experience. Somebody was inspired to design that, and that came from a part of their life experience. So anything and everything that is created, that is not made by nature, that is manufactured by uh, man, by the hands of mankind. I mean, because I know women, men, and everything in between. I know that when I say man, I mean all of us humans. So sorry. I mean to be. I'm not anti whatever, woke or whatever. But anyway, but yeah, anything that's manufactured by man um, is a part of that creator's experience. If not emerging from the totality of his experience, then at least from a moment of his life experience uh, that comes together to create that inspiration. From then, from then he does what he does, and he creates the fence pole topper. So you know, it's not really uh, monumental, but it's not really insignificant. Things matter. Everything matters. And by perspective, nothing matters. So, but yeah, um, I think it's a matter of perspective, and often a matter of proximity. And there is a little bit of philosophy and life experience in everything that was put together by the hands of man or the machines that were built to create designs that were designed by man. And that includes whatever AI puts together. We're making machines now that can create art or whatever, but even they can only know, but they don't know. I mean, it's artificial. They don't know, but even they can put together bits and pieces and swatches of what we tell them. And what we tell them, the machines, is bits and pieces of our life experiences. And, the artificial intelligence can't do anything without that. But it's not meaningless because they're putting together pieces of things that do mean things to the various people that contribute to that collage of AI information. So it's weird. Art is a communication of life experience. Even functional things such as a fence post topper or a doorknob or something like that, So that's my bit of philosophy today. Okay, I love you. Good night. Love and light. Peace.